Hello, everyone, and welcome to our new episode for our very first podcast with Veena. And we have the amazing, the queen in multifamily, Veena Jetti. How are you doing, Veena?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Super duper. And we're so excited because you have so much experience in multifamily. Yes. And we just want to hear your story. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Veena Jetti. I am the founder of a company called Vive Funds. We transact on large multifamily assets. I like to say we're one-trick ponies because we do one trick and we try to do it really well. So we buy 200 units and up, Class B multifamily value-add assets. As of now, my portfolio, we would have transacted on just over 800 million on total asset value.
Clap for a moment right there.
And, maybe we'll cross $1 billion this year, maybe next year, I don't know. And we really look for those assets that can deliver stabilized returns to investors. And, my favorite asset class, so.
That's awesome. And so I know that you have a little background on real estate, and that's how you started.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I kind of took the shortcut into multifamily because I come from a real estate family. So my mom is actually a really successful real estate investor. And so she built my family's portfolio over the years because my dad would travel for work like 40, 45 weeks out of the year. Oh, wow. Yeah, and so my mom had myself and my younger sister. She was the solo parent, the default parent. And so she wanted to contribute to the household and she wanted to it's just her personality. She's an entrepreneur at heart. So she started a real estate investment company and built a portfolio. Both my parents retired early from it, but she never shied away from taking my sister and I to walkthroughs and closings and negotiations. And it was so boring at the time, but it really laid the foundation for me. So I went to undergrad. I graduated when I was 20 years old with my degree in finance.
Oh, wow.
Well, my mom was like, great, now you can come work for the family business. And I was like, no, I'm an adult. I have a degree. I don't need to work for the family, but I'm going to do something totally different. And so I went and worked in corporate real estate for a bunch of years, ended up gaining a lot of really valuable experience, learning how institutional operations worked and being able to understand what it was like in a downturn, because that was after the 07-08 crash. Oh, wow. And so I had really real-time hands-on experience learning that. And then in 2012, I left the company that I was at. I was one of the biggest shops in the world and decided to go out on my own and start investing for myself. And fast forward, and here we are today.
That's amazing. So why that switch? Because you were doing real estate, but like into multifamily, because there's so many branches of real estate. Why multifamily?
Yeah. So what I love about multifamily is it has the highest Sharpe ratio of all asset classes, which means it has the highest amount of reward for the least amount of relative risk of all asset classes. So I like that. I'm a very conservative investor. So it really fits my risk profile. Also, it's highly scalable. And it's kind of the best of both worlds, right? Because you're still in the residential space, but it's a commercial transaction because of the size at which we're transacting. So.
And how difficult was it for you, like, to start into multifamily?
I think that, I don't know, actually. I don't know how to answer that because I just did it. I just went for it. I'm a very persistent person. And when I put my mind to something, my mom always says, when Veena gets a bee in her bonnet, it's going to happen. And so I think it was one of those things that I didn't really think about what I need to do. The first time I ever raised capital for a deal was really hard. Oh, wow. It was very tough. But you get better every time you do a deal. It gets easier. You learn what you didn't know the last time and you fine tune, and it gets easier and easier every time.
For sure. What was the biggest difficulty that you encountered when you were raising capital for
all of it? All of it. Well, you don't have a track record, right? Mm-hmm. And the people who are excited and want to support you and say, yeah, I'm definitely going to invest with you, they're nowhere to be found when it comes time to actually write that check. Right. And I remember I cried myself to sleep for the first 6 weeks because I was like, we're not going to close this deal. We're not going to be able to raise the capital. It's going to be awful. But ultimately, we were able to get through it. It was a lot of hard work. And I think that just knowing that you can do it once makes it easier to do it a second, third, fourth, fifth, 100th time after that. So the first one's always the hardest, then it gets exponentially easier.
That's true. Plus, like, I mean, at that point, you would already have at least a track record of a certain amount of properties, right? That you had already.
Yes, that's true.
That's awesome. So what is the biggest lesson that you could teach someone that is starting into like raising capital for like multifamily? Biggest lesson that you could teach someone?
Okay, so I have two, but they go hand in hand with each other.
All right, let's give them.
Okay, so the first one is everything starts and ends with numbers. Okay. And I feel like there's not a lot of emphasis placed on this, especially when you're talking to new sponsors, new operators, or people trying to get into this space. But if you don't understand your numbers, how could you possibly know if this is a deal you want to be trading on or transacting on at all, right? So understand your numbers, spend time learning it. My degree was in finance, so I already had a financial background. If you don't have it, like today, everything's available online. You can Google literally every financial term. There's a YouTube video on it. There is a podcast on it. You can find this information. It's readily available. So that's one, is know your numbers. Everything starts and stops there. If you put garbage into your model, you're going to get garbage out, and you want to make sure you're getting good, accurate pro forma projections. The second thing is treat your passive investors as if they are the end all to be all. Every decision that we make at our company starts and stops with how it's going to affect our LP investors. Oh, wow. If it's not going to benefit them, or I don't think it's going to enhance their experience or make them more money, we just don't do it. If we think it's going to be a worse outcome for them, we don't do it. And by doing that, what happens is our investors trust that no matter what happens, we're always doing our best and we're always trying to perform with them, and that anything that potentially goes wrong, and if you're in this business long enough, something will go wrong. But when that happens, they know and trust that you've done everything you could, and this is just part of the market conditions and the risk you take on as an investor.
That's right. And at the same time, it builds so many amazing relationships because
absolutely.
Like once you're super truthful and honest with this one investor that you have, then the other ones are going to start coming because like he's going to be referring you to other
That's
ones,
exactly
right?
it. Yep.
Is that how your business grew then?
Yeah. So we actually had all organic growth for the longest time. We did not really go out and seek new investors or anything like that because like you said, we have one person invest and then they tell their brother and then they tell their neighbor and then they tell all the other physicians in their practice or whoever it might be. And then you start getting more and more referrals. And it's funny because we have a lot of competition into our deals.
Oh, wow.
So sometimes we have an investor who will be like, I'm not telling anybody about this so that they can't take my spot. But after enough times, you know, they'll definitely refer people. And that's how we grew. And then 100 investors becomes 1,000 and becomes 10,000 and so on and so forth.
That's amazing. And yeah, it's super cool how you started developing those connections with all of your investors.
Yes.
At that point, it kind of feels like a family.
It is. Capital raising and interacting with my investors is absolutely the most favorite thing I do in my business because I know them intimately. I know what they do for a living. I know where they're going on vacation. I know when their kid's birthday party was. And so it's just like my network is exploded and I get a chance to really authentically interact with them, which I love.
Awesome. And I also love how you mentioned that it's kind of like a family. And speaking about family, like how do you make it to handle your business and at the same time being able to handle your family? Because I know that you have your little kids as well, so.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out how to do it. I'm not the best at the balance. So I have twin, almost 3-year-old girls. And I take them to work with me, I work from home a lot of days, but whenever I'm at home, I take them with me to like internal meetings because I want to do the same thing my mom did. And I want them to be used to talking about real estate and to understand what cost segregation is, what is debt service. I want them to understand money and how it works at a very young age. So I expose them to all of it. I take them to the meetings I can. I try to spend as much quality time as I can with them. So when I'm with them, I am not on my phone. I am not watching TV. I'm present with them. I'm interacting with them. I'm talking to them. I'm teaching them something new or exploring an interest that they have. And then every day between like 5:30 and 7:30, when I'm not in the middle of a deal, I turn off the computer or I take a break from what I'm doing and I spend that time with them. We, eat dinner, we read books, we hang out. Sometimes they'll go to bed. Most of the time they don't. But that's like my time with them. And then I go back to the computer and go back to work after that.
And from what I'm hearing, in order to be successful, I guess, like with your family as well as in business, you have a routine. And that's one of the things
Yes.
that I've noticed in most investors that are really successful in both aspects in life is that they have that balance because of the routine that they have.
Yeah.
Biggest tip that you could say that helps you in your routine to stay like these motivated to do deals and things like that?
Yeah. I would say that remembering why I'm doing this, right? Like I'm actually not doing this for the financial benefit of it. I mean, that doesn't hurt, but
Yeah, a little secondary effect.
right. I mean, like it's a byproduct that's not, it's not awful, right? But I really do this because I want to leave a legacy for my kids. The space that I'm in and the size of deals that we're transacting at, there's just not a whole lot of women or minorities in this space. And I want to leave a legacy for my daughters so that they know that they don't have to choose between having a happy home life and also having a career or a successful business. And so I want them to know that they can do both. And it takes sacrifice, right? Like, so when I'm being a good mom, I'm not being a good entrepreneur or business owner. And when I'm being a good business owner, I'm not being a good mom. It's just, you can't do everything all the time. So it's kind of that give and take.
Gotcha. But you have an amazing balance, it looks like, and
Thank you.
we're super grateful to have you as our mentor in
Thank
multifamily now.
I'm excited to be here.
Super excited again. And thank you so much to our audience. We are super excited to see you on the next episodes, and we're going to discover a little bit more about multifamily. See you in the next one.